The Mysterious Count, Tracing the Legend of Saint-Germain, Mystical Narrative. On the pages of history, a name sometimes surfaces, one that refuses to fade with the passing of centuries. That name belongs to the Count of Saint-Germain, a man whose precise birthplace, parentage, and age when he first stepped into the salons of Europe remain unknown. Some whispered he was the secret son of Prince Francis II Rákóczi. Others rumored Portuguese, French, or Spanish origins, and he himself seemed to enjoy the enigma, introducing himself at times as the Marquis of Montferrat, or perhaps as Prince Rákóczi. What's certain is this: he left his mark everywhere. He spoke nearly every language. He played the violin with a mastery that some claimed was taught by the devil himself, and he boasted of knowing the secret of transmuting metal into gold, purifying diamonds to flawlessness, and even possessing the elixir of eternal life. Contemporaries called him the Wonder Man. He moved comfortably within the circles of Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and Illuminati, with whispers of his involvement in secret diplomatic missions. In royal courts, he was never seen to eat or drink. Moreover, some claim to have met him centuries earlier, looking exactly the same. And then, in 1784, he died. Or did he? Records state he was buried in Eckernförde, but his body was never publicly displayed. In the 19th century, he reappeared. Theosophists claimed he was one of the ascended masters. Spiritualists hailed him as a teacher, guiding humanity through the ages. The legend lived on, and like all great mysteries, it had its modern shadow. In the 20th century, a man named Richard Chamfray adopted the Count's persona. He lived in luxury, told incredible stories, and claimed to be the immortal Saint-Germain reincarnated. The celebrity world devoured the myth. Beside the global superstar singer Dalida, in the glare of the press, the legend was reborn. But the romance ended in tragedy. Both Chamfray and later Dalida ended their own lives. The story, therefore, is one of light and darkness, of aspiration and disillusionment. Yet the question still lingers today. Who was the Count truly? A mortal adventurer, a brilliant fraud, or genuinely an immortal who returns again and again to remind us that the mystery, the wonder, and the yearning for eternity always lurk within the human soul? Anything is possible, and perhaps that is precisely why we can never forget his name, the Count of Saint-Germain. The Count of Saint-Germain, immortal alchemist. Have you heard the tale of the man who never dies and who knows everything? In the candle-lit courts of the 18th century Europe, whispers carried the story of a mysterious count who walked among kings and mystics. He was the Count of Saint-Germain, an enigmatic nobleman, alchemist, musician, and diplomat rolled into one. He moved in the highest circles, yet remained a riddle. Voltaire caustically called him the Wonder Man, quipping, "He's a man who does not die, and who knows everything." Saint-Germain's legend still blurs the line between reality and myth, inviting us on a mystical and philosophical journey across the boundary of diplomacy and intrigue, occult secrets, and eternal life. The Count's historical role: adventurer, diplomat, polymath. According to contemporary sources, the Count of Saint-Germain was reputed to be a genius of many facets. He spoke numerous languages fluently, played the violin exquisitely, and even composed music that charmed his aristocratic audiences. He had a keen interest in the natural sciences and the arts, dabbling in chemistry and painting, and could converse eloquently on philosophy. In mid-18th century Europe, he rose to prominence as an adventurer scholar, mingling with the likes of Casanova, Voltaire, and Mozart. Despite his fame, his true identity and origin remained a mystery. Across the continent, he used several aliases. He was the Marquis of Montferrat, Count Soltikoff, Prince Rákóczi, and held numerous other titles. Toward the end of his life, he hinted that he was the lost son of Prince Francis II, Rákóczi of Transylvania, a claim that, if true, would explain his extraordinary education and wealth. Though unproven, the suggestion only heightened the mystique surrounding the Count. Contemporaries were both fascinated and suspicious of Saint-Germain. The British writer Horace Walpole, for instance, called him an odd man who wouldn't reveal his true name or origin, and who was even arrested in 1745 on suspicion of being a Jacobite spy, though he was eventually released for lack of evidence. Walpole noted that the Count spoke Italian and French with the greatest ease, yet neither felt like his native tongue. Spanish, Portuguese seemed his natural language. It was also noted that Saint-Germain strangely avoided relationships with women, claiming he had never had dealings with a mistress. Lady Jemima Yorke, a noblewoman, wrote after meeting him in 1749, "He is an odd creature, and the more I see him, the more curious I am about him. He is everything with everybody. I believe him a great pretender in all kinds of science, though he certainly has an uncommon share in some." In short, Saint-Germain knew a little about every subject, perhaps too much, which only intensified his mystery. Chambord, Louis XV, and alchemy in France, the Count made a particularly strong impression. Around 1748, he appeared at the court of Louis XV, quickly becoming the center of attention. The king himself, as well as Madame de Pompadour, took the peculiar polymath under their wing. It's said that Louis XV so enjoyed the Count's company and his experiments that he set up a laboratory for him at the Château de Chambord, where the king would try out various chemical mixtures with Saint-Germain to escape his boredom. The Count received a generous 100,000 francs from the king for his experiments on dyes and other secret work. In fact, in 1756, the king had a full alchemical workshop installed at Chambord Castle, so Saint-Germain could conduct his research undisturbed, hidden from the public eye. Rumor had it that the Count wasn't just working on textile dyes. He was secretly pursuing the recipe for gold making and the elixir of life. Saint-Germain famously boasted that he could correct flaws in diamonds and fuse several small brilliants into one perfect gem. He allegedly demonstrated this skill to the king. He borrowed one of Louis XV's flawed diamonds for 2 weeks and returned a perfect stone without inclusions. The king's jeweler was astonished, confirming the stone's weight had barely dropped, but the flaw was gone. "Truly, sir, you must be a wizard," the royal jeweler exclaimed to the Count. Diplomacy, prophecy, and the violet flame Saint-Germain also left his mark on the world of politics and diplomacy. Louis XV reportedly entrusted him with secret diplomatic missions, representing the king's interest across Europe. Whispers suggested his shadow fell behind many great historical events. Some say he appeared in Russia in 1762 and helped orchestrate the coup that put Catherine the Great on the throne. Other tales claim he warned his friends of the impending French Revolution. The Countess d'Adhémar later wrote that Saint-Germain sent letters to the French court in 1788, full of grim prophecies. Queen Marie Antoinette allegedly admitted later, I believe that Count Saint-Germain was right. We were wrong not to listen to him. The Count had foreseen the coming upheaval, but the king's advisers mocked him and pushed him aside. This image, the mysterious arrival who warns of danger but is ignored, added a prophetic layer to Saint-Germain's legend. The official records state that the Count of Saint-Germain died on February 27th, 1784, in Eckernförde, Germany, while staying at the residence of Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel. His death was recorded in the local church register, and he was quietly buried. Curiously, no fabulous fortune or jewels were found among his effects, only a few bundles of bills and simple personal items, clothing, toiletries, a few sticks, and a violin. It was as if the legendary alchemist's wealth had vanished into smoke. Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel, the Count's last patron and friend, remembered him with the highest regard, calling him one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived. Although this chapter of the Count's life closed, the story was far from over. His friends refused to believe such a unique man could disappear so simply. And indeed, the legend of the Count of Saint-Germain lived on in an even more mysterious and immortal form. Esoteric and spiritual legacy, ascended master. Even during his lifetime, a superstitious awe surrounded Saint-Germain. Many were convinced he possessed the secrets of alchemy and immortality. The Count himself happily fueled these beliefs, claiming he was centuries old. He often hinted that he had discovered the elixir of life. He'd tell guests he was present in Jesus' time, and that he personally knew Cleopatra, recounting such unbelievable stories in great detail, as if he were an eyewitness. When scoffed at, he merely smiled cryptically. Casanova, who admired and disdained him in equal measure, wrote that Saint-Germain calmly asserted he was 300 years old, knew the universal medicine, and could even melt diamonds. His mystical reputation was soon woven into the lore of secret societies. He was linked to the Rosicrucians, an allegedly ancient esoteric order seeking immortality. Some occult historians even claimed that Saint-Germain was none other than the legendary Christian Rosenkreuz, the order's founder, who had lived centuries earlier. Toward the late 19th century, a new chapter opened in Saint-Germain's spiritual life with the Theosophical movement. Theosophists following Helena Blavatsky taught that enlightened masters, or Mahatmas, guide humanity. Blavatsky hailed the Count as the greatest Oriental adept Europe has seen. She and her followers came to revere Saint-Germain as an ascended master, an immortal spiritual teacher who aids the world from a higher plane. In Theosophical doctrine, he is the Lord of the seventh ray, the violet ray of transmutation and freedom. He is prophesied to usher in the coming age of Aquarius, an era of spiritual liberation. The name Saint-Germain itself is said to derive from the Latin Sanctus Germanus, meaning holy brother, reflecting his benevolent role toward humanity. Modern reappearances, the legend reborn. If Saint-Germain truly died in 1784, the stories about him refused to subside. In the 19th century, people reported meeting the supposedly dead Count. The Countess d'Adhémar claimed she spoke with him in 1789, and he seemed as youthful as ever, prophesying dire events in France. Even the famous hypnotist Franz Anton Mesmer allegedly learned his occult techniques from the Count. These anecdotes kept one idea alive. Whisper that Saint-Germain hadn't died, he had merely vanished. In the 20th century, his legend took on a new age glow. In 1930, an American named Guy Ballard was hiking on Mount Shasta in California when he claimed a stranger introduced himself as the Count of Saint-Germain. This radiant figure initiated Ballard into secret teachings. Ballard went on to found the I Am activity, one of the first New Age movements, proclaiming Saint-Germain as an ascended master working for America's destiny and the spiritual evolution of all humankind. In these teachings, Saint-Germain is revered as the Lord of the Violet Flame, a spiritual energy used to cleanse negativity and aid personal transformation. Devotees still invoke the violet flame daily, believing the Count to be an active, living spiritual entity. Beyond the spiritual seekers, others claim to be Saint-Germain reborn. The most famous was Richard Chanfray, a Frenchman in the 1970s. He performed spectacular alchemical feats on European television, publicly claiming to turn a piece of lead into pure gold over an open flame. True trickery or genuine magic? Eyewitnesses were baffled. Chanfray, styling himself Comte de Saint-Germain, mingled with celebrities and began a high-profile romance with the global star Dalida. In the media spotlight, the legend was dramatically reborn. Sadly, Chanfray's story ended in tragedy. In 1983, his wealth depleted and his credibility questioned. He died by apparent suicide. His end seemed to tragically contradict his claim of immortality. Yet his very attempt proves how captivating the Saint-Germain mystique remains even in the modern age. Cultural impact, literature, pop culture, and conspiracy. Saint-Germain's figure has left a deep imprint on human imagination. In literature, he appeared as early as 1834 in Alexander Pushkin's The Queen of Spades, where a character learned a secret card trick from the Count in Paris, a subtle reference that already cemented the Count as a notorious enchanter. In modern fiction, Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough created an entire best-selling series of historical vampire novels, where her wise and cultured Count Saint-Germain endures through centuries. In Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series and the TV show, the Comte Saint-Germain appears as a villainous Parisian aristocrat who dabbles in black magic and corruption. He embodies the trope of the eternal power behind the scenes. The Count is also a recurring figure in anime, comics, and video games, often depicted as a time traveler or sorcerer who manipulates historical events. He has become the perfect vessel for every dream of secret knowledge and eternal life. His persona also continues to fuel conspiracy theories. To some secret society enthusiasts, he is the ageless Grand Master who secretly steers the world. Was he the European master of the Illuminati, stirring up revolutions to topple monarchies? Others claim he amassed a vast fortune through alchemy and holds it in a secret Saint-Germain trust to be released for humanity's benefit in the future. Ultimately, Saint-Germain's enduring presence teaches us that human curiosity and the craving for wonder are indestructible. As long as we have questions about the unknown, is there life after death? Can someone be immortal? Do secret sciences exist? We will need figures like Saint-Germain to embody those questions. His story will not fade. Closing music swells, mysterious philosophical tone. He lives on in our imagination, in our tales, and in our spiritual longings. His immortality lies in the fact that we do not forget him. Somewhere between history and legend, he continues to walk, greeting us with an elegant bow and vanishing with an enigmatic smile into the shadows. And as we wonder, was it true or wasn't it? The important thing is that the legend makes us think, inspires us, and entertains us. And as long as that remains true, the secret of the Count of Saint-Germain will live on with us, timeless and unconquered.